Hello viewers. Today, 21st of November 2020, 8 days ago marked the anniversary of when we had to evacuate our home, our community, in the face of advancing bushfires. Evacuate. Well, this video is not about the bravado of whether you should stay or go. It's about the means of evacuation, and most people these days in the face of disaster, approaching disaster, sometimes we don't get any notice, like earthquakes and things like that. People evacuate to save their lives, and most people evacuate by vehicle. Now, in this video I'll cover different types, not the specifics, but these days we've got like this one, it's a conventional combustion engine vehicle. You've got hybrid cars, and you've got EV cars, or electric cars. Okay, for us, the vehicle, ours is a diesel, and I don't let it run below 3/4 of a full tank. Usually day-to-day running around stuff, when it reaches about 3/4 of a tank I go and fill it up. It might be a week, it might be a couple of weeks, I don't know, it just depends. But the video is about the range of your vehicle, no matter what type it is, if you have to evacuate. Now, sometimes you've got to evacuate long distances, sometimes shorter distances, either to evacuation centres or friends, family, whatever the case may be. Vehicles these days, you can look up the specs on them, fuel economy, some of them go into quite a lot of detail, loading, tyre pressures, sometimes weather conditions, that sort of thing. But on the face of it, you can look up those specs, and that will give you an indication what affects the fuel economy of your car on a full tank of go juice, whether it's liquid fuel or battery powered. There are a lot of things. How long's a piece of string? Usually when people evacuate, they load up their car with a lot of their stuff, family, pets, furballs, budgies, even Nemo the goldfish. But the more you load up your vehicle, the more weight that loads the vehicle. If you're towing something like a trailer or a camper van or a trailer van, or caravans as we call it here in Australia, again, that's going to affect your fuel economy. And I do know that for a fact from our vehicle here. When we tow, we've got a 12-foot caravan, it does affect our fuel economy and our range significantly. So the range of your vehicle in real time, the specifications will only give you a guideline, but in real time you've got a lot of factors that can affect the range, the fuel range of your car. Add to that in times of disaster you may not be able to get refueled. You may not be able to fill up your tanks, either before you evacuate or during the evacuation process. Typically in most disasters, power fails. What are gas stations in Australia here? We call them servos. What do they need? They need power for the pumps. They need power for you to pay for it. If you have an electric vehicle and it's not fully charged when you want to evacuate, then that sort of complicates the issue, doesn't it? Whatever charge you've got in your battery, that's the only range you've got on EV cars and even some types of hybrid cars. Some examples, my own experience. Bushfires last year, we had evacuated. We were back within 24 hours or so. We had evacuees staying here. We were still under amber alert to evacuate, so we returned home. Still wasn't a pile of ash, and on the way back home I've topped up my fuel tank again. A few days later, someone we know drove by, stopped here and asked for assistance. Now, I don't mind helping people in times of disaster and that sort of thing. what really got my goat up was that the bushfires at the time were still under alert to evacuate, amber alert. It's a tiered system of alert system. We had already arrived and come back, and we had evacuees staying with us. And this guy turned up, I know him, and he said, "Oh, my car's running on fumes. I've got to get into Crow's Nest," which is about 10 kilometres that way, to get to his home, to evacuate, move his car, whatever he wanted to do. He said, "Can you help me?" And I said, "Well, no, because your car uses a different fuel to mine. I have these, full of diesel. His was a petrol or gasoline car." I said, "I don't have much in storage, it's only for small engines and stuff, whatever." So I was getting a bit irate because he also wanted me to escort him in his car, which was very, very low on fuel, just in case he ran out of fuel, and back to his place in Crow's Nest. Now at that time, Crow's Nest was being evacuated. The town was shutting down. A lot of traffic on the road, and the possibility of him running out of fuel, well, he'd had to abandon his vehicle because, hey, he was in an evacuation process and he'd run out of fuel. So I'd have to drive him in there. It also happened 10 years ago with the flood disasters here. It'll be 10 years in January next year, 2021. A lot of travellers caught on the road. Some were evacuating with the JIT system failure. Boy, do you get hurt, tired of hearing that word JIT? Well, it's a fact of life. A lot of the servos in our district and in the Toowoomba area were either low on fuel, out of fuel in the ground tanks, or they were rationing fuel for emergency services and so on. Didn't affect us. We had spare fuel supplies here, and unfortunately, with a lot of these travellers, they were had a big load on them. They were towing heavy trailers, condominiums on wheels and all that sort of stuff, and they simply didn't have the range in their fuel tanks with all that extra loading to go to their final destination. So a lot of them were stranded on the highway, which is just behind us, New England Highway. And in that case, yes, for diesels, we had spare fuel to help them out. So part of prepping for my wife, yes, it was the first time I had to evacuate for her. I've had to do it many times before over the course of my life, going back to the teenage years. But probably one of the things that's probably underestimated is that when you have to evacuate, and it's not a matter of voluntary or mandatory evacuation, that's not the point I'm trying to get to, is how far can you travel on the go juice you need for your car, be that the combustion engine, hybrid or electric. Can you refuel the go juice, whatever type of power plant engine you've got in your car on the way? Do you carry extra fuel with you? More weight takes up more room. These are things that perhaps you'd like to think about. My vehicle gets about 10 kilometres to the litre. I constantly check it. The engine's well serviced. Sometimes that varies depending if we're out and about, uphill, down dale. A lot of road conditions can change fuel consumption, your driving habits, traffic on the road, and the list goes on. I mean, again, how long is a piece of string? It might be a good idea just to have some idea to find out what the range of your vehicle is, given that you've got a full fuel tank, fully charged batteries if it's an electric vehicle, hybrid vehicles, yes, some of them, I won't go into specifications of those, but you know what I mean, and sort of tear it down a bit. You can look at specifications, but given other factors, you're not going to get maximum fuel efficiency according to the specifications out of your vehicle. That's a fact. That's a fact. That will help you plan your evacuation routes, your primary, your secondary, whatever plans you've got. How far can you go? Where can I refuel or recharge? Do I need to carry more of these? All basic important stuff, often overlooked, and I've seen it happen. Thank you, viewers. You all have a good day. Be safe, be well.